justice from the children's eye. We can win this war on drugs. We can do it with faith, hope, and love. Say no to the
Hello,
push of man.
I'm Danny Lane, and welcome to War Zone, my instructional video series on police and military tactics. What you just viewed was a dramatization with professional law enforcement officers and professional stunt personnel. But if you're not professionally trained, it could be you carried out in a body bag. In this instructional video series, I'm going to give you the fastest, most effective way in a hand-to-hand combat situation to neutralize your opponent. First thing I'm going to start with is the position of the wrist, the different types of wrist positions or wrist flexors that we use to neutralize an opponent or take them to the ground. First thing I'm going to do, introduce my assistant, Mr. Todd Perigo. He'll be assisting me throughout the video series. If you can see the wrist, I'm going to grab it with a cross grab, with the thumb on top of the wrist. As you twist it to the outside, keeping your elbow locked in against your body where your energy is, you reinforce the grip by crossing your thumbs on top and then settling your energy back to the side. You crank the wrist over and turn it, dropping your energy down to the ground. Once again, it's important to lock the elbows in. By doing this, you're dropping your total body weight onto your opponent's wrist. You'll see this used throughout the training videos in the knife defenses, the gun defenses, and a lot of our hand-to-hand combat situations. You can use this particular position against a punch, grab, or whatever. To start out with, we'll just do from a lapel grab type of position. I'll step back to break his balance and pull him over to the side. Once again, step back, break the balance, turn, and settle into the side. The next position I will talk about will be twisting the wrist to the inside. Instead of with the left hand grabbing and turning to the outside, I'm going to grab across with the right hand and twist to the inside. The same concept with the elbows in. Now, it's important to keep the wrist above the elbow to create that leverage to drop your opponent to the ground. There's many different positions you can do off of this, but I suggest holding the hand in close and torquing down. Once again, you'll see me settle into the stance. Dropping to the stance is probably the most important part of the movement because the energy from your body is what gives you the power. Using that into a throw, I'll move to the outside and bring him all the way over to the top. Once again, step back and over to the top. The third angle we're going to be able to maneuver the wrist will be bringing it down back towards us. So from any type of position, once again, this is from the left side. As you twist it to the outside, instead of cranking it all the way over, bring it back towards your center and bring them straight down to the ground. From here, there's many different things you can do to follow up with. Once again, in and drop back. Keeping the elbows locked in, bringing the hand towards your karate belt. Once again, a little faster. The fourth position of utilizing the wrist will be going up. If you grabbed a hold of the person's wrist from a block or some type of grab, we're going to push the wrist back towards the armpit and upward, making your opponent rise up onto his toes to break his balance. So from some type of grab or block, as you'll see throughout, we're going to bring the elbows in, push up. Once the balance is broken, then you can go into your second part of the movement. In this case, I'm going to step to the side and give him a nice throw. Once again, flexing up, stepping into a nice throw. Now I will explain the 6 finishing moves I like to use once I get my opponent on the ground. Once you drop them down to the ground, there's many different things you can do. One quick lockout position is to drive the knee into the armpit where there's a pressure point. Once you drive the knee into the armpit, securing the body against the ground, you must create a vise with both of your legs, squeezing in against the arm to create a vise so it can't move, and then torquing the wrist, either to the outside or to the inside. Okay? The second option of that is maintaining the right knee in place. If you step across with the left, right across the neck, and pull up, you'll be able to put pressure against his back, pushing his neck or his windpipe in against your heel. At the same time, you can create pressure on the elbow, pulling back against your quadricep muscle. It's one of my favorites. Another option from there, if you step over with the right foot, continuing in this sequence of moves, you'll see my opponent's head now is between my leg, between my calf muscle and my hamstring, creating just like a big arm, a choke around the neck. By sitting down against his head, it cuts off all the oxygen and the blood supply, creating a situation where you would render your opponent unconscious. At the same time, you still have the arm bar position by pulling back. The next one I use extensively, usually against a knife technique to quickly dislodge the knife, by spreading the arm out all the way as far as you can, stretching, putting the knee on the elbow joint, and stretching it down towards the ground. It creates tremendous pressure on your opponent's arm and his nervous system. So once you drop here, spread out and lean. It's one of my favorites. The next one I like to discuss will be what I call the walkover. Once your opponent, let's go from the up position first. From the same move I used a few minutes ago, from a hooking or slashing movement, inside here. Once your opponent hits the ground, many times they will roll towards their stomach anyway. So as you step across with the left foot, you hit on the back of the elbow with your right hand. At the same time, you could twist the wrist back towards his head, and your body is circling all the way around. You'll see now that I've created a vise with both knees. My left knee is against his back, creating pressure down, and I'm pushing the wrist down towards the floor. Once again, I'll do that just a little bit quicker in this position. And lock in. This is nice for law enforcement because now you have your hands free for cuffing or to come around into a more secure position to neutralize your opponent. The last one I'll do, from any type of wrist flex or throw or whatever, if you can grab your opponent's arm as you step over and rest your knee on the ribs, which we discussed earlier. As you fall back or sit back, you're into what we call a Japanese arm bar. This heel supports the body against my hips. My left leg is against his neck. I have the arm bar position right between my legs, bridging out all the way to my chest. To create pressure, all I have to do is arch my hips towards the ceiling. You've got the arm bar position. You have the choke. Put the left foot against the windpipe. Demonstrate that one more time. There you have the 6 of my favorite finishing techniques to restrain your opponent once on the ground. Now I'm going to cover my favorite choking positions. Depending on the amount of pressure you put on your opponent will determine the amount of damage done to him. First thing we can do is just with a simple, what we call a web hand, with the fingers and thumb, in close grappling. Most situations end up in a grappling situation. If there's not a weapon involved, almost every situation ends up with a hands-on or on-the-ground type of situation. So hands-on type situation, whether you block out and set your balance or you block a punch, it really doesn't matter at this point. By going to the neck in 2 different areas, a quick strike to the windpipe, of course, would stun your opponent, would make them cough or their eyes water. So you would do that with the bone just at the base of the index finger with a hand like this. Quick strike. The second part of that technique will be to squeeze the fingers, the thumb towards the other 4 fingers, in behind the windpipe area or the larynx, in here. creates a choking or gagging type of effect. Once you put that onto your opponent to distract them and start to cut off the oxygen supply, then I would suggest taking the ground to put their head against a flat surface to apply the choke according to the amount of pressure you would need, or to follow up with a second technique. Let's go against the punch. Against the punch, go right to the neck. You've got to be careful in training because it is possible to fracture that windpipe. So as soon as you block, hit the neck for a stunning move, squeeze, take down. Now you see that I have Todd's head against the ground. His head cannot go away from my pressure, and I can apply as much pressure as I want to the neck in that choking movement. So that hand applied two techniques, a quick hit to the neck, then the squeeze in. The technique I used to take my opponent down was a basic outward sweep, sweeping the back of the calf with my calf, pushing down at the same time with my hand. You'll see I block my knee on his body to keep him from rolling off. I have his arm here to break over my leg if necessary, and also to secure the choke. The second one I will cover will be what I call the side choke. From a hands-on position, we can use a double spread block to push up with this arm and push down to open up an area to move inside with the neck. At the same time, I'm going to come to the side of the neck with my right hand striking the carotid artery. I'm striking the carotid artery with the bone just behind the thumb, right here on the wrist. That will stay against that carotid artery. I'll move up, pushing the arm against his head. I'll grasp my hands together, palm to palm, and grip. If you wish, you can squeeze your fingers together. Now it's important then to pull towards your head. By creating pressure on the carotid artery and the vagus nerve on the side, you'll see the opponent is all disorientated because it sends a rush of energy towards the brain. Once again, I suggest once you get your opponent in this position, twist, take him to the ground as quick as possible. Once on the ground in this position, you can continue to apply the pressure by pushing in against his arm. If you have to, you'll see me bridge up with my legs. So to get your body pushing down against him to apply the pressure in the choke. Generally, once on the ground, one of these particular types of chokes only takes 2 to 3 seconds to render someone unconscious. Once again, from a hands-on position, smack, hit, you're inside the grasp. That's very quick. Sweep, take him to the ground, and put him out. Third type of front technique, when your opponent's straight in front of you, will be what I call the front choke. You can get into it by many different situations, but primarily it's done by, if I'm doing a right front choke, by coming around either off of a punch or an elbow or just shooting the hand across, wrapping the head down, bringing it in against your body. It's a hands-on position, grappling position. You got the inside position. Could possibly hit, knee, anything to loosen them up to bring them in. Now to show you the position, my arm is against the windpipe here. You place your other hand on the shoulder. When you bring this hand up to grab your own forearm muscle to apply the choke, then you bring his head down against your body, bringing your inside forearm bone here up, which is a radial bone, into the windpipe. That's bone on bone. That's what creates all the pressure. Once you've locked in your arms, the choke is already into effect. And then you bridge up, and it takes your opponent out pretty much immediately within a couple of seconds. So hands-on position, you could hit, front choke, and once you're locked in, and he's already choking. To get your opponent to the ground, there are many different ways, if you need to get him to the ground, to do this. I'll do it with a back roll. So a hands-on position, into the front choke. When I drop to the ground, my hands are still in the choke position. I'll use my leg. My hand will go into his stomach, and I come right up. I still have him in this position to choke out. Once again, from this angle, please. Still moving a little slow. Front choke position. roll right up on top, and you'll see that I'm here with that choke out. And you just create pressure, and then push him down. The next one we're going to do from the front position will be what I call the spin around forearm choke. It's very good for law enforcement officers when you walk into a bar or a crowded situation to take someone out. Also, you can use them as a shield if necessary. Using the push and pull theory, basic physics, here I'm going to push him with my left hand. I'm going to pull him with my right hand, trying to spin the body around. I'm going to ease around behind him. You'll see my arm is straight against the neck. I don't have much pressure, but I have him off balance. You'll see my left hand is pushing in against his spine to break his balance. If he raises up, then you have a problem. It's important to keep him at this level. You can rest him against your leg, or you can use him as a shield. If you need to apply the choke, come in with your hands palm to palm, head up against his head, and you have the choke. From the standing position to the halfway position on the leg, or all the way down onto the ground for the choke out. Once again from this position. Hands on spin, hit, choke, take him to the ground. I strongly urge you when practicing to become proficient with the pressure, be conscious of your partner's pain. When he pats out and you hear that certain sound, you need to let go immediately. From the same spin out technique, you can go into what I call the full choke. Instead of using the full arm bar choke, which is legal in most police agencies, this particular choke involves putting your right hand on the back of the head, your left hand on your bicep, and you have this particular position here. You create pressure against the neck, pushing over the forearm by pushing down. So getting into that, spin, apply from here. Spin, hit, kick out, here, or here for the full choke. The next choke out position that I'll teach will be the one I teach for military or police when you're sneaking up on a lookout or some type of guard that you're trying to take out very quick. Now, depending on if they have hair or if they have something to grab onto determines on what you do. But basically, once you get up on them, you have two-way action. Your left hand's going to come around the neck. Your right hand's going to push on the base of the spine. If they have hair and you can see that they have long enough hair to grab, my preference is to grab the hair back with the right hand at the same time, coming around right here, kicking the leg out, taking them to the ground and applying the full choke. And of course, the most important thing is to get to this position. But if you're coming up and you reach, this all happens at once. Grab hair, pull back, put the arm around the neck, kick the leg out with the right leg. And once you drop them to the ground with their full body weight going over your arm, generally instantly, they're unconscious or possibly even it's a fatal movement. One more time, I want to show a close-up of the position of the arm as opposed to the neck. So when the arm fits around in most police agencies, this particular choke involves putting your right hand on the back of the head, your left hand on your bicep, and you have this particular position here. You create pressure against the neck, pushing over the forearm by pushing down. So getting into that, spin, apply from here. Spin, hit, kick out, here, or here for the full choke. The next choke out position that I'll teach will be the one I teach for military or police when you're sneaking up on a lookout or some type of guard that you're trying to take out very quick. Now, depending on if they have hair or if they have something to grab onto determines on what you do. But basically, once you get up on them, you have two-way action. Your left hand's going to come around the neck. Your right hand's going to push on the base of the spine. If they have hair, and you can see that they have long enough hair to grab, my preference is to grab the hair back with the right hand at the same time, coming around right here, kicking the leg out, taking them to the ground, and applying the full choke. And of course, the most important thing is to get to this position. But if you're coming up and you reach, this all happens at once. Grab hair, pull back, put the arm around the neck, kick the leg out with the right leg. And once you drop them to the ground with their full body weight going over your arm, generally instantly, they're unconscious or possibly even it's a fatal movement. One more time, I want to show a close-up of the position of the arm as opposed to the neck. So when the arm fits around the neck, just like a vise, just like a collar, you'll see that when I flex my forearm and my bicep, the compression of that squeezing in does two things. It cuts off the blood supply, it cuts off the oxygen supply from here. Now just when I flex my forearm, you'll see him choke. So it's important just not to create pressure with the body, but to flex your muscles and forearms to create that tension against the neck. Once again, with this last takeout position, two ways. You can hit, pull. Of course, in knife fighting, which is covered on another video, you could hit and cut. Same type of movement. And take it through. Three things are happening. Pull, trap, kick, drop. And you finish them off quick. That will conclude my offensive choking positions. Now I'm going to instruct you how to counter someone who tries to apply the chokes to you. What's very important is as soon as you feel pressure or you feel yourself getting in that position, if you don't react instantly, you have very, very little chance. So your reaction timing is probably the most and primary ingredient that you're going to need to react immediately when you know you was put in this position. The first one we're going to defend against is someone coming up behind you, just putting their arm around your neck. Most novices that don't know what they're doing or whatever may not push the hips out. That's why I taught you to do that, push and pull at the same time. But as soon as you feel pressure from the rear and feel yourself being pulled off balance, it's important, instead of fighting against the direction you're being pulled, is to subside into it or just blend with it. So if it's a right arm coming around my neck, I'll turn to the right. Same thing with the left. If it's a left pulling me back, I'm going to turn to the left. At the same time, instinctively, you're going to grab and pull away from your windpipe. You have your balance. You're going to come across their neck with a sword arm, or you could use a palm heel if you have the distance. Come into your outer sweep. So as soon as you feel pressure, turn, drive that sword arm across the neck, and drive them down to the ground. Once again, you're feeling pressure, turn, pull, then you're into position for one of the finishing techniques I taught you earlier, any one of the arm bars. The second choke we're going to defend against will be same type of position. As soon as you feel the pressure, instead of turning, if you can, drop the stance. Pull forward. That way you settle your energy down, you drop your center of gravity towards the ground, you become stronger. At the same time, reach up. Pull your elbows down. Todd, if you will, try to choke me from there. You have a couple of seconds or more holding that arm down. Your two arms centered down has more pressure than they can pull up. Two different types of finishing moves. Using just a hip throw or a shoulder throw, I'll bend over, bringing my head towards my left knee, throwing him down. Remember, you're always in position for one of these follow-ups that we taught earlier. Your choice. The second thing you can do from there, settle. The escape route here is to the left. I can go out this way. As I step back with my right foot, I'm going to pull down his elbow towards my rib cage. I'm going to twist the wrist out into a movement. I still have him in this finishing type of movements. Any of these type of moves apply from here. Once again, as soon as you feel pressure, bend. See, he almost went instinctively. I can escape to the left with a throw. Or you can bend straight over and throw them over the shoulder. The next choke we're going to defend against, or give you a defense against, will be the front choke, where somebody comes around the neck and gets you here. Once again, you have to react quickly. A lot of times in a combat situation, the first thing you do is try to loosen up your opponent with like a groin strike, some type of strike to the eyes, nose, or whatever. So you can apply those yourself. What I like to do, as soon as I get in this position, two things. If you're being choked and you're pulled up, one thing you can do very quickly is drop your weight down. When you drop your weight down, you're going to drop your weight down and forward, kicking my right leg through his legs, locking his right knee with my left hand. As I drop down, I'm going to then kick this leg up and throwing him over my back. So a multitude of things are happening here. I hit, I loosen up, I lock the knee in and hit. At the same time I hit, I'm dropping this leg through and kicking him over the backside. The reason this would work is primarily anything that you do will be a surprise to your opponent. So when they put you in these positions, they're not looking for a counter. So anything you do is going to be a surprise. You get in this situation, strike, lock, kick back with your legs. And your momentum and leverage dropping down will surprise them, and they should fall right straight over. What's important not to do, and you might find yourself doing, is when you drop down, that you'll be choked even more. It's important to hit, loosen them up, lock the knees. When you kick, get all the way up between the legs, and then push with your arm over. Another one from the front choke is when you stand straight up, lock the knee, put my arm over the shoulder here, I move to the side to break his balance a little bit. At that point, I go right between the legs and lift him up and slam him down. So what's important is three things: strike, over the top, up, twist, and down. You still have the bodies open for other attacks. What's important is the twisting, because the twisting breaks their balance more than up and over the top. Always settling in to continue to attack in some type of follow-up movement. The next situation that you may find yourself in will be a side choke from the side. A lot of times people will try to punch you. Of course, you're going to have to try to block it with this hand. Some karate self-defense, some basic movements that I like are striking the vital point. Strike into the groin will be one. As you strike into the groin, reach over with your left hand. Using your fingertips, claw the eyes or nose, pull back. And then your follow-up technique could be an elbow or a chop to the neck. Simple, basic moves for combat. He throws a punch, block it, strike, hit, and rip back. You'll notice when I did that also, one thing you may have not seen was my left knee come forward, breaking his balance forward. So as I come back with my left hand, I had also the combination of my left quadricep in against his hamstring area. Here, if he doesn't fall, you could have the finishing move there. That's basic karate. One of the nice jiu-jitsu movements that we use is basically the same concept as before, using leverage. If you're in tight, what I'm going to do is with my left hand reach across his back and grab anything you can, his clothing. The second thing, I'm going to reach across with my right hand and grab his left knee, locking it. I'm going to throw my right leg across his body and up. When I do that, I'll be dropping to the ground, pulling him with me. After I drop to the ground, I'll be able to roll up on top for a finishing move. So I grab, two things happen. Three things happen. One, I'm right here. Now you'll see that his arm was still around my neck, Go around my neck, please. To get out of here, I do two things. I pry down with my left ulnar bone against his neck. I step across here with my right leg. So now I have pressure against his shoulder. Once you can get in this position here, you're ready to finish off with a arm bar position. One more time from there, please. This is where you want to be. Leg over, arm against the neck. If the leg doesn't come over, get it over as quick as possible. When you push up and swing the leg around. Then sit down and bridge back. Either way, this way or this way. I find that one of the most common chokes used in most street situations is a side choke on the ground, where somebody will get you around the neck, lean against your body and choke. With some very simple counter movements to that, you can come out on the best end. In this situation, I'm going to be thrown by my opponent. So Todd will be throwing me. I end up on the ground. This is what I was talking about, where you're in the side choke position. A lot of times they'll be creating pressure on your neck in here. It's very important. One thing you can do immediately is his leverage is pushing against my stomach or my chest. That's what keeps me on the ground. If you'll turn your body sideways toward your opponent, I'm going to turn towards my right, then that loosens up the amount of leverage he has. At the same time, the first move I'm going to have you do is turn quickly, bring your left hand over his arm by his neck. I'm going to throw my left leg over his back. You'll see that I'm coming up. So by throwing my left arm over his arm, locking his arm behind my neck, throwing my leg over, then I can come up into an arm bar or a spread out. Try to get in that position again. From here, I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to try to roll towards my stomach. In doing so, I'm going to come right up and spread. I'm pushing my arms towards the floor, locking them out. You'll see when I spread out, it'll create pressure on his arm. Okay, either that way or up on one knee. The second option we have from the ground is to turn sideways again, form a bridge with both arms. When I turn, immediately I try to turn sideways and protect my neck. One of the most important things on the ground, if somebody knows what they're doing, they're going to your neck to choke you out. So you've got to keep your chin in, protect your neck so they can't go to it. Second thing is to minimize the amount of leverage that they have on you. So I'm going to protect my neck, turn to the side, and I'm going to form a bridge underneath his chin. All right, now I'm going to show a close-up of the bridge. When I turn to the side, I'm going to put this elbow down, put this hand just like this. Todd, if you will, come around here and stand up, please. I want you to put all your weight on my arm right there. Just stand up. So I can stay there all day long. The harder your opponent chokes you, the more it chokes them. Now you could keep that until your opponent kind of runs out of energy or relaxes themselves. Then you can go for the counter movement, which will be this. If you will, get me through here. Okay, he has around my neck. I turn sideways. Go ahead and choke a little bit tighter. Turn sideways. Start prying up. Take your time. Form this bridge. Go ahead and try to choke. All right, you have a good strong bridge. When you feel the right moment that they start to relax, you'll bridge back. At the same time, you're inching your body counterclockwise away so they have nothing to lean against. You'll see now that I have moved my body, he has nothing to lean against. Then I can push back. At the right moment, your left leg comes up, over, across the neck. The bend of my knee is right around by his windpipe. I'll bring my right foot over, hooking my heel on my foreleg. I have a nice leg or scissors technique to the neck. At the same time, when I bridge back with my body, I bring his hand against my chest and arch up to create tremendous pressure on the arm, the shoulder, and also I have a choking technique against the neck with my legs. So this is a good way to make the best of a bad situation. I'll throw again. We'll work through the whole scenario kind of slow. I'm down, turn, choke, slide out, up, lock, and bridge out. And push them off to the side. So that will conclude all the counter-defensive techniques against the choking. This concludes Volume 1 of my War Zone instructional video series on hand-to-hand combat.
Desperation is setting in, but we can fight it and we can win. When I look out my window, the world looks cold, 'cause I see hurt to both the young and old. And I see hunger, sick and lame, but we're all brothers, one and the same. So when you see me, stretch out your hand. Let's try to change things in this God-given land. Come on and fight it, fight it. Somebody help me now, fight it, fight it. Fight it, fight it. Somebody help me now, fight it, fight it. We can do it, brother, you and I. Let's take the sadness from the children's eyes. We can win this war on drugs. We can do it with faith, hope, and love. Say no to the pusher man. You can do it, I know you can. 'Cause we don't need dope to cope with frustration. But with the help